Welcome to the Wholesome Healing Collective.
Join us on our podcast for a journey into the hearts of healers from all walks of life, diving deep as we explore meaningful conversations that have the power to inspire, empower, and share life-changing wisdom.
Through this community, we hope to create a welcoming environment where our listeners leave feeling nurtured and uplifted. We are so delighted you are here. My name is Alyssa.
And I'm Renee. Grab a drink, get cozy, and let's dive in. Hello and welcome to the Wholesome Healing Collective. We are here, me and Alyssa, and we wanted to start out the podcast today with just checking in on progress with each other and giving you all an update on where we are with our intentions for the year, and maybe that will serve as a loving reminder for all of you to check in on your progress and your intentions as well.
Yeah, I love that. Wrapping up the first quarter. I cannot believe how fast this year went. This quarter.
Yeah, we're already in March. We just passed the spring equinox, daylight savings time. We've got an extra hour of day, extra hour of light in the day.
Yeah.
Feeling that spring energy emerging for sure.
Yeah, it's a little snowy here still, so it's hard for me to feel into that spring energy, but I can't wait for the snow to go away, for it to begin to warm up.
Yeah. What do you feel like is emerging with this energy that's percolating but not quite here yet?
So I was thinking about how much more comfortable I am in the spotlight. That's one of the things that I've been working on with my theme this year of being seen. And speaking of spotlight, I feel like my webcam is like so bright right here. It's we have a little sun out there today. It's shining through. So I did a podcast in like November or December with somebody, and I actually don't know if that went out because I was so awkward. And so that's the point here, is that I began my year as just like a little shy, a little hesitant to start this podcast. I didn't go well on my last, or the one podcast I was on, and I was feeling a little nervous. And then I just took one step and then another step. And it's like that titration of beginning this podcast with you and beginning my lives where I just show up and there's no editing. It's me talking and doing breath work and doing what I know and love. And it's been so beautiful to find my confidence in the spotlight.
That's wonderful. I love that. And you are like beaming with joy. I totally relate to that because I still there's this part of me, this older part of me that still doesn't believe that I'm even doing this, that I could even sit in front of a camera and bring voice to my thoughts and actually share learnings, teachings, beliefs. I feel like I'm breaking through the barrier of fear when it comes to being seen, but also what's really been percolating up for me as an opportunity for growth is this fear of judgment. And I realized looking back how often I sit in silence because I am afraid of what other people's perceptions are going to be about my beliefs or my thoughts or my actions or whatever, and how much that's caused me to play small. And I recognize I still have a long way to go in that space, but I do feel that transformation just slowly taking place, and the grip of that fear just slowly starting to soften with that titration, like you mentioned, just like the little steps at a time. And um, breathwork was a beautiful step just in the journey of practicum and learning to even just hear my voice
Mhm.
out loud. And then now I feel like this was an even bigger step, actually recording it and being comfortable, not necessarily live, but in front of the camera in a different way. So, yeah, so beautiful.
Yeah, I love how you backed it up to practicum because even when we started the coaching programs and I was looking at the syllabus and seeing that there was going to be video submissions that were due, I was so anxious. I was like, what? I have to record myself with somebody probably and submit that.
Yeah, so scary.
Yeah, and then our first one was like 5 minutes. You did 5 minutes, I did 5 minutes. So it's like a 10-minute video or something, a feeler. And then from there, it was just like so easy. And it was like, yeah, this is what I do now. I just record myself and I submit it off for an assignment.
Yeah.
And it's so
Oh my
funny.
gosh. And how scary was the first feeler? Like,
Yeah.
I'm just going to sit here while someone watches me and holds space for me. And I don't even know what that really means yet, you know?
Mm, yes.
I love that. Uh, Oz did a really good job at titrating those little experiences to work us up to half an hour submissions and being in front of the camera. And now we do feelers every week, and it's been over a year now. So it's like
Yeah.
nature.
Mm, it's so beautiful. That titration, it makes it so much more safer and easier to like absorb and to take on when you're like, but it's not like jumping from a 5 minute recording to a recording of a group session. It's like these little things that go along the way. And that was really
Yeah.
nice of Pods to do.
It's interesting that you brought up, and I think you mentioned this off camera before we started, but checking in on what we're calling in for the year. And I don't know if you said the word embrace, or maybe embrace just came up in my mind because that was my word for the year. But it was interesting that you brought that up today because I literally just did a meditation this morning. It was a guided meditation from the course I'm taking from Robin Riviera. And it was a visualization to discover the tools that are calling to you to work with in a ceremonial way. And in the vision, it was interesting because she casts a scene of this meadow, and then you're walking up to this pond, and then you're looking into the pond, and the pond is to reveal to you what this tool is that you're supposed to work with. And I could visualize the whole thing, but then when I got to the pond, I saw nothing. And at first, I
Mm,
was like, why am I not seeing anything? But then I realized it wasn't for me to see, it was for me to feel. And then I could feel my heartbeat, and then I could feel a drum, and then I could hear the drum. And it was this felt sense of like, this is the tool to bring people to their heart. And that's been one of my big intentions with working with people, is bringing people home to their heart, because we so often live in the mind. And I believe that our home is in our heart. And it was just this beautiful, like, I could hear the drum as the heartbeat, as this like invitation for people to have that felt sense of the heart. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. And it was talking about feeling the energy. And I felt this like strong, earthy, masculine energy. And then you go back, you integrate that, and then you go back to the pond for your second tool because you're working with two. And I didn't see anything, but she says, feel the difference in the energy. I was like, okay, I do feel that difference. It was softer, it was more feminine, it was more gentle, it was more like a whisper, but I couldn't exactly tell what it was. I think it was cacao. And ironically, I've just got some ceremonial cacao a couple of days ago, and this morning was the first morning that I spent time with it. And I did this little prayer, like, I feel you. I want to work with you. Like, this is me trying to develop a relationship with you. Like, I don't know what I'm doing, but here I am. And so I felt this energy come forth. And I was like, is this you?
Mhm.
Not really sure. So I ended with this feeling of like, okay, if this is you, I'm welcoming you, but I wasn't really sure. Anyways, bringing it full circle, it was just a beautiful um, calling from within for these tools that are coming forth for me to embrace. And that was my intention for the year, was embracing my gifts and embracing the things that I've already cultivated. So it was really beautiful. And I still, like I said, I didn't quite get that last one. And I still have some, I think, relationship building to do. But yeah, little by little, it's being revealed and it's so beautiful.
I love that. Oh my goodness. I got chills when you were talking about the beating drum in the heart, and I was like, oh. And I love how one was masculine and one was a little more feminine, and the duality. I've been really feeling into that a lot recently too. So beautiful. Um, and I've been curious about what tools it is. So it's funny that like now is the time where you're being introduced, because I've been like, what tools?
Yeah, I
So
know. And
that's
now
so
I'm
cool.
like, where do I find a drum? How is this?
Mm,
Now I'm really curious. How is this going to be brought or introduced into my path? Because I know, it's not something that I'm just going to like go online and buy a drum. It's going to
mhm.
find me in some kind of mystical way. So now I'm super intrigued.
Yeah. I wonder if one of those shops in Ashland has some
Mm,
drums.
yeah. I also, there's somewhere local in town that does drum circles
Mm,
about once a month, or sometimes just random ceremonies. So it's like, oh, maybe I'm supposed to go there and meet someone that makes drums. That would be cool.
yeah, that's so cool. And I love how cacao is a heart opener, and then that drum with the heart, and it's all like
Yes.
tied
And
together.
the
It's
feminine masculine duality of heart opening. I was like, ooh,
yeah,
this is juicy.
yeah, I love that.
I also, though, thought, I wonder if this is peyote, because peyote is a heart opener as well. Um, so I felt that come forth too, but I was like, I don't know. And both of them, if I remember correctly, are said to be mothering, nurturing
Mm,
feminine energy. So like, oh, which one? Maybe both. I don't know. Maybe cacao is my baby step and peyote's later, but we'll see.
yeah, I love that. And you could probably do both. There's going to be people who aren't interested in peyote, but cacao is gentler and more accessible.
Yeah.
I think a little easier to get behind in like a first ceremony where you're like, I don't know what I'm signing up for, but I'll drink this hot chocolate.
Yeah. And it's also rooted in Mayan and Aztec cultures, which definitely I feel a calling towards, and a reverence for
Mm,
the wisdom that has been passed down from those cultures. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I love that.
Yeah,
Um,
excited to learn more about the history and the lineage.
yes, there's so much history in all of these cultures. It's so beautiful. And what I've been thinking about slash struggling with for a while since finding yoga was like, I'm a little white girl. I don't want to be like culturally appropriating,
Yeah.
but I know that I have lived many lives, that the Indian culture seems like home to me and yoga seems like home to me. So I know that I've lived that before. And so even though in this lifetime I'm white, I'm from Montana, that doesn't mean that I can't practice something that has been deeply ingrained in my soul. And I
Yeah.
bet like even the Mayan and all of those other beautiful cultures are really similar. Like we have lived so many times.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point to bring up. And I think what's so important is just the deep respect and reverence for the cultures and traditions, and paying those respects and gaining the depth of knowledge that's needed to have that deep respect,
Mhm.
so that you're representing those traditions in a way that is in alignment with how they would teach it or how they would pass it on. Which,
Yeah.
of course, if you can work with someone of that lineage, or who has worked with elders from those cultures, that is like the ideal. But at the very
Yes.
least, doing that research, which I am going to embark on doing, to really have a deep knowledge, so that it isn't just like, oh, cacao, I read it, I saw a video on Instagram and now I'm going to do it.
Yes.
That's where we get ourselves in trouble.
So I love that you said there was a part of you that is still feeling nervous about embracing all of this stuff.
Mhm.
This was a while ago, but I just loved it because that was kind of what we were going to talk about today was parts work and these protectors.
Yes.
And so a lot of our coaching involves parts work. And so that's working with a part of us um, is wounded. And usually there's a protector around that wounded part that came online during that event, during that wounding, um, to keep us safe. And so this protector, it's keeping you safe by keeping you small.
Mhm.
And a lot of times we don't realize how close we are to our protectors, how ingrained they are in our everyday activities and behaviors. Yeah, do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I'll just relate it to what I had mentioned that I've noticed coming up for me a lot, is that fear of judgment. Um, and in my own reflection of where that comes from, in terms of what part of me, what little version of me that comes from, um, I see this little girl that grew up in a home where both of my parents had very radical differences of opinions on political views, religious views. Um, and some of not only did they not agree with each other, but a lot of times I think there was an observation from me as a child of those opinions perhaps being shared, and then the reaction from outsiders was less than favorable in my young perception of it. And so there was this protector that got developed, where if I agree with everyone, and if I kind of fall into the norm of beliefs, then no one's going to judge me. And so for me to step out of that and say that I believe something that's out of the box of what most people believe is super scary for me. And it, in a sense, I know that it is a, like, I'd say 8 to 10-year-old version of me that just views my mom being judged. And I'm afraid of that. Um, I also think there's a little bit of maybe some past life fear that's there, but that's a different can of worms to get into. Um, but there's definitely that little part of me that's just super scared of uh, revealing my truth that might ruffle people's feathers, and being in conflict with people is something that is scary for me. Um, So I've really just had to try to nurture that little part of me. And one thing that really comes up with the parts work is there's the different layers. You have the protector that's there that says, you know, it stops you from speaking and it encourages you to be small. And it's the little voice that says, don't rock the boat. Just stay quiet. No one's going to see you and no one's going to judge you. And then when you peel that away and you get to the inner child, that's where the actual fear and the emotion is. And then what is that need? What is that need of that little child? And how can you meet it in a safer way? So if that need is safety, the unhealthy way is the protector keeping you small. But what is the healthy way of filling that need of safety without playing small? And that's what, honestly, I'm still working through. And part of that work is just establishing safety in my body as a baseline. And then part of it is working with, somatic coaches. Like we just did a session last weekend that helped me to identify where some of that fear was living in my body, and then working with the contraction of that feeling and the expansiveness of a different feeling, and then allowing those two energies to mix and alkalize and harmonize so that that energy can start to dissipate and essentially like unwind from the fibers of our being so that they can be integrated and released. It's kind of the visual that came to mind.
Yes. I wanted to add something to that. Or
Yeah,
ask
that was
something
very
about that.
specific to what is coming up for me in my life right now, but maybe we want to speak to it in a more general way too.
No, I think that's perfect because it gives people an idea of like what it can look like narrowed down. Oh, this is what it was. So you can simply ask this part if you can peel back the protector enough, soften the protector to ask the part, what do you need? Safety, it'll say. And then you say, how can I love you even more? And then it'll give you that information that you need to provide that safety for this part. And then you can continue to develop this relationship with that protector. Now knowing how you can create that safety, and it could look like many different things, surrounding yourself with people who love you for who you are, and you can say whatever you want to say, and these people don't judge you because they get it. When you're around those people that just judge everything, that's where it's scary to be yourself. And then in like a more general term, I have a protector that I work with that causes me to over plan and over prepare, because if I let loose and kind of go with the flow, it's not safe. It's not, something could happen. Somebody could get hit by a car, or I'm late, or just like these random things that this protector really wants to look out for, but it's not helpful. It doesn't make me feel expansive and flowy and free, keeps me in this box. And so that's a protector that I work with often, and I have to like zoom out of my experience and be like, whoa, that's not me. That's this protector. And this protector thinks it's driving the car, but I'm driving the car. I'm evolved enough now to know that I can keep myself safe, and the protector can sit in the back seat while we go along.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way of seeing that. And I think it's important to note too that we have different protectors, we have different inner children, we have different traumas that are stored in the body, and some of them may be more prominent and come up more often, like like a controller where it's more ingrained in your day-to-day activities. And some of them might come up when you're specifically triggered by an event that is bringing up emotions or is in some way similar to the event of origin that originally created that emotional response in the body.
Yeah. I love that. There's so many nuances to that protector, and just loving this protector
Yes.
for the part of you and softening that protector and letting that protector know that you've got it and you're here. And sometimes you can hear that protector be like, no, you don't. And they
Yeah.
just talk back to you, but it's so it's such beautiful work, and it kind of falls into that shadow work we've been talking about, where these parts of you do need tending to, and they do need attention and love so that you can transmute that negative energy into a positive relationship.
Yeah. I feel like that's really, it's a good way to um, look at the difference between mindset work and somatic work, whereas the mindset would try to override the controller. And I don't know if that's what you call the protector that you just mentioned, but for me, I know that's one that comes up as well, as wanting to control my environment and be prepared. Be prepared
Mhm.
is like my protector. And we resist it, and we, sometimes we become aware of it and we're like, oh, why is this here? Why am I controlling again? Just let it go. Just let it go. Let it flow. And we're just trying to override, 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 instead of going and being like, okay, I see you. I love you. I see why you're doing this. Thank you. But I'm going to drive now. And so it's like, instead of resisting, we're loving and we're nurturing and we're thanking them, because at one point, and probably many points in the life cycle of this protector, they really did serve you. They may not serve you now, but at one point they did serve you and they did keep you safe. And we should be thankful for them coming to our aid in whatever time we needed them. But now we've evolved and we have healthier ways of doing things, and our higher selves can take over. So it is so important to love those parts of us, because if we resist it and resent it, they're not going anywhere.
I love that.
They're going to be like a screaming toddler throwing a fit, like, listen to me.
Yes. Yes. Um, the body-based healing that you mentioned, it is so important to find that belief in the body and why we behave that way, instead of just trying to fix it in the mind and override it, like you said. I mean, we can definitely create new neural pathways, but finding that feeling in the body so that you can release that energy is is such a beautiful part of this work. And I think that's what makes it so transformational.
I just got this visual of neural pathways, and like when you create a new neural pathway, but there's still something stuck in the body, it creates this hurdle. And so when you want to go from one neuron to another, you have to jump over this big hurdle, jump over this big hurdle. And at first you can do it, right? You've got all this energy, you're inspired for whatever reason you're inspired. So you're like, yeah, I got it. I'm jumping, jumping, jumping. And then after 7 days of jumping, you're like, man, I'm just climbing over this hurdle and I'm going to the other side and I'm tired. And eventually that hurdle is still there. And I'm like, I'm just staying over here. But when you can get rid of the hurdle by integrating it into the body, it creates a free pass. So that new neural pathway that you've created with your mindset work, you can just go and go and go and go. And you now flow into that new pathway, and you don't get tired and you don't get worn out by what's still stuck in the body, because now both the body and the mind are on the same wavelength and they can move freely in that new way.
I love that. That made me picture when Sam talks about going to those big events where you're like, ah, yeah, so excited for change. And so like that first day you come back home, it is that exciting jumping over the hurdle. I got this. But after that week, you're like, it's not so fun anymore. It's hard to continue to live like that. Yeah, that was funny
It's like
visualization.
swimming upstream when you don't address what's going on in the body and get to that place of mind body coherence.
Yes. I actually have this coherence monitor that I got from Heart Math Institute. We should play with it on one of our
Yeah.
podcast episodes. I've been
Heart
trying to
Math
bring it on.
Institute is doing amazing work.
Yeah, it's so cool. I need to spend more time on their website and their resources. But it seemed to go right along with what we're doing with breathwork and the quantum field and everything that we've been talking about. So I was like, oh, I want this little monitor.
Yeah.
I
For
haven't done
those
much
of
with it.
you out there that are a little bit like, oh, I'm not too sure about all this stuff, maybe just dipping your toe in this out of the science and into the mystical, the Heart Math Institute and the work that they do with Joe Dispenza. Joe Dispenza does a lot of work with Heart Math Institute,
Mm.
and they really are bridging that gap between mysticism and science and showing the bringing in technology that brings sight to the unseen is what it seems like to me. Um, what we have been taught through sacred teachings of the energy of the heart and the energy of the mind and the energy of the body is now being able to be read by the technology that's being built to measure the frequency that we're able to emit with our heart and our mind. And not only that, but then how our internal world then affects our frequency and affects incoherence with the mind and body, or coherence. Like, it can be measured now. You can look at a screen and say, the brain is doing this and the body's doing this, and they are not aligned, versus they are aligned and they're on the same frequency. And it is so cool.
Yeah.
Nerd out on that stuff.
I want to go to one of his Joe Dispenza. Hello, let me tell you who I'm talking about. One of his like retreats or whatever, where they do meditation for hours, like 8 hours hooked up to these monitors. Like, I think that would be so cool to see that information. And I bet, because I know Sam went to one, and so I wonder what hers looked like, because after doing so much breath work and embodiment practices, I bet that we can fall into coherence so much faster, because I
Mhm.
know I've seen it on my monitor where I look at me hooked up to it and I'm breathing, I instantly fall into the what it calls coherence. And
Mm,
then I put it on my kids or my husband, and it takes them a lot longer
mm,
to reach coherence. And it just is like hooked up to my earlobe. So I think it's measuring like my heart rate or maybe my blood. I don't know how it works, but it's so fascinating how fast I can fall into that coherence because of the breath work and everything that I've been doing.
that is super cool. Yeah, it's neat how they can measure your brain waves, and depending on the type of brain wave, they can tell how deep you are. And one of the documentaries I watched on Joe Dispenza and the work he does, it was going through some of those case studies of those events where they're hooking people up to these monitors, and they can actually look at where they're at with their brain waves and be able to say if that person's about to have a massive experience
Oh,
because of
wow.
the depth they're going. I'm like, oh, that is so cool. I'm
Yeah.
interested. I didn't know that those monitors were uh, accessible like that. I'm gonna have to check that out.
It was like $150, but I was like, it's worth it. I really like technology,
Yeah.
especially when you're in this field. I should probably bring it around with me more, because there are a lot of people who are skeptical. Like, they're like, what do you mean? I know how to breathe. I breathe all the time. And I'm like, but your body's doing it wrong. People don't really love to hear that. But if I could show them on the monitor, this is how crazy your coherence is. But then if you can breathe with me for 8 minutes, you're going to be like this. You're going to be in coherence. I think people would get it a lot faster.
That would be an interesting experiment um, at retreats, having people hook up to one and see where they're at in the beginning, and then do it again at the end. And then they can see the progress with their coherence.
Yeah. I love that. Let's just um take this opportunity now to say we're working on doing at least one retreat this fall, maybe 3. So keep your eyes out, and we are so excited about it.
So excited. Yeah, it's been cooking for a while, this
Yeah.
vision and this calling, and it feels like the pieces are just falling into place.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And it sounds like you need to get a drum so we can do some drum and some
Yes.
cacao.
Yes.
Yeah, so amazing. I'm so excited. And obviously there will be breath work. And
And
I want
yoga.
to do, yeah, yoga. I want to do ecstatic dancing, slash just embodied dance. Like ecstatic, if you've ever seen a video, which there's not very many because most people don't record them, but I saw one on YouTube. So Google it and see if you watch the one. I was so emotional watching it because these people are sober and they're dancing. They're just dancing and they look high as a fucking kite because they are enjoying it. It's just like this beautiful time. And I'm like, I want that. I want that. And I want it for other people too. Like if I'm facilitating, if I'm like the DJ, then I don't get to experience that, but they do, and it's so beautiful.
Yeah, letting the music move through people
Mm-hmm.
without any. What I think is beautiful, and this probably comes back to my fear, is that in those spaces, you release your fear of judgment and you just move as if you're the only one in the room and no one's looking at you. The experiences I've had is most of the time people have their eyes closed and they're just in their body and feeling the music and letting it move through them. And it's so beautiful when the rigidness of the ego part of us that's always aware of eyes on you,
Yeah.
like all of that melts away.
Mm, I love that. And like when you're in your own experience and everybody else is in their own experience, no one is watching you in a judgmental way.
Yeah.
If anybody does look at you, it's with love because of the environment that's been created and the energy that you're in. It's like, oh.
And then the group energy is just so like freeing and safe, and it just becomes this spacious container of energy for everyone to be in.
Yes. It's gonna be so cool.
If there are any suggestions or things that people would love to see us offer, let us know, and yeah, see what comes from it. Love to hear
Mm,
thoughts. What do you look for
yes.
when you go to a retreat? Or uh, maybe what do you want to see in retreats that you've never seen before?
Hmm. And if you've never been to a retreat, that's okay too. Like this could be your first retreat. And we are looking to provide a safe, easy space for everyone to feel welcome.
Yeah. I was talking to a friend the other day and she told me, she's like, I hate the word retreat. And in her mind, she was like, I think of retreats and I think of like pretentious Lululemons or like, which nothing wrong with Lululemon. It's a great quality brand. But um, she was like, I hate it when people go there and then they're on their pedestal and they're like, I'm here and I'm special, or I'm here and I'm spiritual, or whatever else. And so that really made me realize not only is that not the experience that I want to create, but it just further solidified the energy of what I want to call in, of it being like a sacred container where it's accessible.
Mm,
It's not a gym class or a vacation where we're gonna like do yoga and get drunk. Like it's a container where self-love, self-healing, self-connection, all of that gets to take place. Transformation can take place. And it has nothing to do with what you look like, what we're doing, status, any of those labels. Like, throw all the labels out the window. And it's really about you coming home to yourself and us providing that container.
Mm, yes. And our intention is to do 1, 2, maybe 3 sessions, group sessions online before the retreat, so that we can have that titration, so that we can track everybody's nervous systems and get us to a point where we can go deep when we come together in person, and that we feel safe to hold that container. And so these are people that you would have met online already and developed a relationship with. You've seen them, you've seen us. And so that safety piece is so important to us.
Yeah, and we'll likely do 1 or 2 integration calls afterwards as well. So as things are experienced and, you leave and your heart's open and hopefully inspired, we'll then have a couple of calls where we get to just connect again and integrate and um, keep that momentum moving forward as we go back into our day-to-day lives.
Mm, I love that. That's going to be so amazing.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Beautiful. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
No, that feels complete.
Yeah, agreed. To wrap us, any comments below about hearts work, protectors, the retreat, or any upcoming topics you would want us to talk about? I do also want to notice I edit the podcast, and I always listen to the beginning, and it talks about how we are meeting healers from all walks of life. We haven't began our interviews yet. We're kind of laying the groundwork of what it is that we do and the type of coaching we do. And then we're going to start doing our interviews, but they're to come.
Yep.
If you'd like to be on our podcast and you consider yourself in this work, we would love to hear your story and what kind of modality it is that you do. So I'll drop my email in the bottom, in the comments, in the description. And you can let me know that you'd like to be on our podcast.
Awesome.
Beautiful. We hope you have a great rest of your day.